But no amount of brutality could save him forever. Hunted by the Royal Navy and abandoned by fortune, the pirate who built his name on murder met the same fate he had denied countless others. His ship was captured, his crew destroyed, and his reign of terror ended on a blood-soaked deck. The black flag that had once spread fear across the Atlantic became nothing more than a warning that every empire built on cruelty eventually falls beneath the weight of its own violence.
Enjoy the video and don't forget to subscribe.
Trace your finger along the map from Nassau toward the Windward Passage and picture the year 1719 as the smell of rotting oak, boiling pine tar, damp hemp rigging, stale bilge water, wood smoke, sulfur, and wet canvas drifted across the gray Atlantic beneath heavy storm clouds while every snapping sail echoed through the maze of standing rigging. The Golden Age of Piracy had reached its bloodiest years, and among the captains hunted by every admiralty court sailed a man whose growing reputation rested not upon courage but upon calculated slaughter. His brigantine displaced nearly 110 tons, stretched roughly 80 feet along the keel, and carried 14 bronze cannon cast from an alloy containing approximately 88% copper and 10% tin, with traces of lead that improved fluidity during casting. Every gun rested upon oak carriages secured by breeching ropes nearly 5 inches thick, while black powder composed of roughly 75% saltpeter, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur weighted inside carefully sealed powder barrels protected from moisture by leather covers. The hull displayed pronounced tumble home supported by massive white oak futtocks joined with hand-forged iron spikes exceeding 11 inches in length. Every seam packed tightly with twisted oakum before repeated careening coated the planking beneath layers of boiling pine tar. His articles of agreement promised equal shares and compensation for wounds. Yet every signature concealed a future stained by betrayal, because this captain increasingly murdered surrendered crews despite promises of mercy, ensuring that every surviving witness carried stories of unimaginable cruelty across the Atlantic. Merchant captains soon recognized that surrender offered no guarantee of survival, because this pirate transformed ordinary boarding actions into deliberate massacres intended to spread terror farther than any broadside ever could. As grappling hooks forged from heavy wrought iron bit into merchant bulwarks and hemp boarding lines tightened beneath the strain of dozens of armed men, terrified sailors watched flintlock pistols primed with finely granulated powder and cutlasses sharpened along sandstone wheels flash beneath smoke-darkened skies. Cannon firing began only after careful preparation as the gun captain pierced each powder cartridge with a brass vent pick before filling the touch hole with priming powder. And when the glowing slow match reached the vent, the sulfur ignited first, rapidly heating the charcoal until expanding gases released by burning saltpeter hurled an iron round shot weighing nearly 9 pounds through oak planking. The impact shattered long wooden fibers instead of cutting them cleanly, producing thousands of razor-sharp splinters that ricocheted across confined gun decks with greater lethality than the projectile itself. Once resistance collapsed, the pirate ignored, accepted customs, followed even by many outlaws of the era, executing prisoners to eliminate witnesses and seize cargo more quickly. Captured manifests listed barrels of flour, Caribbean sugar, tobacco, indigo, logwood, and silver coin, yet no treasure satisfied his growing appetite for violence. News of these crimes spread from Jamaica to Charleston through frightened survivors fortunate enough to escape hidden beneath floating wreckage, convincing colonial governors that ordinary patrols would never stop a captain who had abandoned every remaining limit, separating ruthless piracy from calculated murder. By early 1720, the Admiralty no longer viewed the pirate as merely another outlaw disrupting Atlantic commerce, because sworn depositions described repeated murders committed after formal surrender, transforming him into one of the highest priority targets along the American colonies. Governors issued detailed proclamations promising generous rewards under anti-piracy statutes, while experienced Royal Navy officers compared witness statements with captured logbooks to reconstruct his movements almost week by week. Ironically, the captain still trusted the same navigation that had once guaranteed his escape. His helmsman relied upon a magnetic compass housed inside a gimbaled binnacle beside a sandglass measuring half-hour watches, while the sailing master calculated dead reckoning using chip logs knotted at regular intervals and observations taken with a Davis quadrant whenever clouds briefly revealed the sun. Believing shallow coastal waters would defeat heavier warships, he anchored within narrow channels where shifting sandbars protected his brigantine. The vessel remained in constant need of maintenance because tropical heat expanded oak planking during daylight before cooler nights contracted every seam, demanding continuous caulking with oakum driven deep by heavy irons and sealed beneath fresh pine tar after each careening. Even while shipwrights repaired split futtocks, tightened deadies, inspected chain plates, and replaced worn shrouds, the captain continued raiding isolated merchant sloops carrying rum, salted beef, flour, and naval stores. Every fresh attack added another name to the growing list of dead, and every corpse left floating beside shattered hulls convinced colonial authorities that negotiations had become impossible. Without realizing it, the pirate had already crossed the invisible line where capture alive mattered less than ensuring he never sailed again. The expedition sent to destroy him reflected years of hard-earned naval experience rather than blind confidence, because the Royal Navy understood that reckless pursuit inside shoal waters could doom even a disciplined crew. Instead of charging directly into the channel, the commander ordered his lighter-armed sloops forward at dawn while larger vessels remained offshore, their crews preparing boarding axes, muskets fitted with socket bayonets, pistols, and heavy cutlasses sharpened for close combat. Every sailor received strict instructions that the pirate must not be underestimated despite his dwindling numbers. Below deck, carpenters laid out spare oak plugs, collision mats, and pumps in anticipation of incoming fire, while surgeons arranged bone saws, scalpels, forceps, linen bandages, and heated cauterizing irons beside casks of rum intended to dull, unbearable pain. As the tide slowly lifted both vessels, the pirate spotted unfamiliar sails emerging through patches of sea fog illuminated by pale morning light. He immediately ordered the anchor cable cut instead of weighed, sacrificing expensive hemp to gain precious minutes before the enemy closed the distance. Powder monkeys raced across the gun deck, carrying leather cartridge boxes from the magazine, carefully removing felt shoes to prevent accidental sparks, while gun crews rammed cartridges home with polished wooden staffs before seating iron round shot against tightly packed wadding. The first broadside erupted with deafening force as expanding gases burst from the cannon muzzles, surrounding the brigantine in dense, sulphurous smoke that concealed shattered rails, splintered bulwarks, and the opening moments of the battle that would finally force the murderer to answer for every crime committed beneath the black flag. Smoke rolled across the water so densely that entire sections of both vessels disappeared behind drifting gray clouds, leaving only flashes of orange flame erupting from cannon muzzles and the sharp crack of musket volleys echoing above the surf. The pirate understood that escape had become impossible and ordered a desperate boarding attempt before the Royal Navy could reload. Grappling hooks slammed into enemy railings as hardened hemp cables tightened under enormous strain, pulling the hulls together until their tumble-home nearly locked the ships side by side. Cutlasses rang against naval hangars while boarding axes smashed through oak rails darkened by years of salt and tar. Pistols discharged at arm's length, their flints striking hardened steel frisons to shower incandescent sparks into finely primed powder before the main charge exploded inside the barrel, driving soft lead balls through wool coats, leather belts, and flesh with devastating force. Marines advanced in disciplined ranks despite the chaos, their bayonets presenting an unbroken wall of steel that slowly compressed the pirates toward the quarterdeck. The outlaw fought with astonishing determination, already bleeding from multiple wounds, yet every step backward reminded him that years of murder had exhausted every possible refuge. His own crew, once bound together by articles of agreement promising loyalty and equal shares, now broke apart beneath relentless pressure as experienced sailors fell beside shattered capstans, broken companionways, and splintered mast partners. When the pirate finally collapsed onto blood-soaked planking, surrounded by wrecked rigging, smashed gun carriages, torn canvas, and drifting smoke, the violence that had defined his career ended not with glory or hidden treasure, but beneath the disciplined advance of men determined that his reign of terror would never begin again. His body served as undeniable proof that even the most feared pirate could not outrun justice forever. Years of massacres, betrayals, and terror ended on a blood-soaked deck where discipline overcame brutality. The black flag that once spread fear across the Atlantic vanished with the man who believed fear alone made him invincible.